Well, welcome back, Fist-Ended Christians. I am your co-host, DJ, and I am here with my good friend, Dustin. It is Leap Day, February, what is it, 29th?
Yes.
And we're just kind of hanging out, and we wish you the best day. It looks like the weather is going to be kind of nice today here in Minnesota, 40 degrees. And but it's not quite there yet.
No.
So it's only 19 degrees, and Dustin and I were kind of furrowing our brows when we saw each other a little bit ago. Like, what the hell's going on? But Fist-Ended Christians is all about being resilient and just kind of taking life as it comes on life's terms. So welcome to our episode today. We're gonna call this episode the musical episode, I guess, right, Dustin?
Sure.
I mean, one of the cool things about Dustin and I, our friendship, has kind of blossomed in a lot of different ways, and one of those ways is we're both just really, really into music and different kinds of music, and we've been talking about kind of different things to different directions to go with our Fist-Ended Christians cast, and one of them we talked about was maybe just talking about music that has impacted our lives in a way that, in a good way or maybe in just a real kind of profound, life-changing way. And so today we have the pleasure of just kind of digging deeper into Dustin's worldview as it relates to music. And he's picked out 3 songs today, and he's going to play a little bit of them, and then we're going to talk about them. And we hope that if you ever want to reach out to us, eventually you'll be able to connect with us on DL Diaries.
Yep.
And feel free to kind of email, and if you have ideas for show topics as it relates to being a Fist-Ended Christian in the future, please feel free to just let us know. Let us know if there's something you want us to talk about. But today, I'm really excited about it because it's all about music. I have a very heavy music background, and so we're just going to dive right in, and I'm going to turn it over to Dustin. And again, just a little house cleaning. This may be just a little, you might have to bear with us in terms of setting up the songs and stuff, so there might be some dead air or maybe some fiddling around, but just bear with us. It'll be a good payoff, and we'll just keep going from there. Right, Dustin?
Yeah, thanks, DJ. Yeah, it'll be interesting because as we do this podcast, we started really bare bones and it's just a simple recording of 2 dudes talking, but we've talked about, getting like a title page or whatever and being able to do some editing for videos like this. So this being our first foray into it, it'll be sloppy and messy, but that's okay because that's what life is.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll figure it out as we go, and you'll have a chance to do your episode with some music, and we can do more episodes with our music. I talked to Nathan, who was on a couple, 3 episodes ago, and he thought it was a great idea, so he'd love to do an episode or 2 with some songs that are impactful to him.
Yeah.
So I think we have a good idea and going, and we'll head in a good direction with it.
And isn't it interesting? I mean, tell me if you agree with this. So don't you think that most people have that one song that they're like, oh, this either brings me back,
Yeah.
or oh, this is where my life changed, or oh, I remember this song because it reminds me of the girl that broke. I mean, just
Yes.
does it? Don't you think most people have that?
Yep.
And I think that's pretty neat. And I
Yeah.
feel like in terms of being Christian, I feel like God will try to communicate with us in any way, shape, manner, or form.
Yeah.
And I feel like music is a great vehicle to get us into ourselves, get us our hearts kind of working, get our emotions kind of flowing. And I feel like that's, for me anyways, I feel like God uses music to try to help us learn more about Him, or even just learn more about ourselves, or both, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I will say for people that are listening, Metallica is my favorite band of all time, and I could do multiple podcasts.
Man, maybe you should do a Metallica
Yeah,
podcast.
just like on songs that have made an impact on me. The 3 songs I picked today, 2 of them are Metallica, and then one is a Christian rapper named Trip Lee. The two songs from Metallica are Fade to Black and The Unnamed Feeling, and then the song from Tripoli is a song called War. The first two songs are all about, like inner struggles and hating life and being depressed and angry and anxious and suicidal and all that stuff. So then, kind of on an uplifting end, I picked War by Tripoli, where he's talking about spiritual warfare and how God will win out in the end. So I didn't want to get too dark the whole time.
Sure.
So yeah, I went with two Metallica songs and a Tripoli song. So like I said, the first song is Fade to Black by Metallica. They're my favorite band of all time, and this happens to be my favorite song of theirs of all time. And there's both the lyrics and the music are like super important to me. The music just because it's really moving, and they found a way to match the music to the lyrics. So the first part of the song is James Hetfield, the lead singer and writer of most of the lyrics. The character of his song is talking about why his life sucks, and the music is like kind of melancholy and slow. And here I'll play a quick little bit of it. So this is like the opening intro, and then it'll break into some lyrics that I'll get into. And then the second part of the song, the character decides he's going to commit suicide, and the music gets more aggressive. Like all of a sudden, just in the middle of the song, boom, it's more aggressive, and now the lyrics are talking about, I'm going to do this. And then the end of the song, it plays out into a long guitar solo, like a minute and a half or 2 minutes. And I think that's representative of the fact that he's committed suicide, and now he's like, if he's hung himself or if he's taken some drug to do it, it's like his brain shutting down and his mind like panicking as he's dying. So I think it's just super impressive and super cool how they matched the music with the lyrics. So the first verse in the song, there's a couple lines that says, getting lost within myself, nothing matters, no one else. And that really stands out to me because I think a lot of times, not just for me, but for anybody struggling with mental health stuff, you get lost in yourself. You turn your mind inwards and all you do is focus on yourself and your own crap and how bad it is. Nobody else, nothing else matters. And so you get to a point where it seems like it's that bad, so it becomes that bad. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So
yeah, I could see why that lyric would be very relatable to you, because I know that you've struggled, and I too. We were just talking before we pressed record about somebody this morning told me that all of your narratives that you bring up in your life could be in movies, and Dustin and I were kind of joking about that, because that's probably why I'm such a good writer, because my reality and my narratives that I create in my head, I can't sometimes tell between the two. And then if I'm by myself, and you probably relate to this, Dustin, if you spend too much time alone, you end up kind of creating these thoughts, and it's just hard to break the circuit. It's a thought circuit that is super hard to like, and then you have all the cliche, like reach out to a friend.
Right.
And I've been thinking a lot lately about smoking pot.
Sure.
And trying to rationalize it in my brain. And I know that I'm supposed to reach out to people, but I don't want to. I just want to entertain this. And that's when danger comes in, right? Yep. That's dangerous thoughts. Thoughts become actions. Yeah. So I love that line too. Sorry to commandeer that. But.
Yeah. No, that's a very important thing. And actually, I didn't tell DJ this ahead of time, but last night I went and visited a prostitute, and it was that same thing where I got wrapped up in my own head, and my parents helped me out with my finances, and I could have reached out to my mom, and I have other things in place that I could have done, but I just chose to spend money on a prostitute. And I was just like, fuck it, I'm having a super bad day at work. I've had a rough week, and this is what I want to do, and I don't want to fight it anymore. So I'm going to play the whole second verse now for you. I have that queued up. And again, this is still in the part of the song where the character of the song is talking about why his life is bad and how he's struggling with all of that. So here we go.
Oh my God! That's so badass. That joga 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 bow.
Yep. Yeah, so that, again, it's just talking about, at the very end there, he says, I need the end to set me free. It's like sometimes when you're in that darkness, you don't see another way out. The only option is suicide, because you think, even if I survive, like I'm 36, even if I manage to survive, in my head, I think 40, 50 more years, it's all gonna be misery. Like, it's not gonna be happy. So
excuse me.
I that need the end to set me free. Like, the only thing that's going to free me from this hell is death itself. And then wrestling with, well, for the sake of others, do I want to live another 30 or 40, 50 years like this, or do I just want to be free right now? So,
For the sake of others,
yeah.
who are you burdening? Sounds like you're your own burden.
Right, no, I mean, if I were to commit suicide, that would burden others.
Okay,
so for the
okay.
sake of
All
others, I don't commit suicide.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I'm glad. All right.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Because it would be not good.
Right. Yeah, so I'll take you now to the part of the song where, so now these first couple verses, the character has talked about why his life is horrible and the reasons why he wants to commit suicide and need the end to set me free, like wanting to do it. And then right in the middle here, it breaks down and changes to more aggressive. And this is when the protagonist is gonna, like, has decided to commit suicide. So here it is. So now these next, the fourth and fifth verses are just 2 lines each, and so this one he'll say, "No one but me can save myself, but it's too late." So it's that focusing on the inward. It's all up to me, and I'm gonna fail. Nobody else can help me. Nobody identifies. So I'll just go ahead and play these 2 verses real quick for you guys. So yeah, that was the fourth verse, and it's no one but me can save myself, but it's too late. Now I can't think why I should even try. So he's just like, fuck it. This life is horrible, and there's no reason to try. There's nothing to live for. There's no payoff, nothing like that. So. Yesterday seems as though it never existed. Now, and then, this is now, like, he's killing himself, and now this part of the song is the extended guitar solo, talking or like, as his brain is going to suicide, like, panicking, like, as it's shutting down. So yeah, that's my favorite song of all time.
And it's actually very dark, but it's also incredibly intricate and beautiful and thematic and just sweet. I mean, that's such a sweeping theme for so many people.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I think Metallica is they have such a huge following.
Yep.
is because they take these really, really difficult topics and they just masterfully,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and honestly, right? It's an honest. It's the why would you say? What is the core driving thing of that? It's being your favorite song of all time. Is it because it's just honest, or does it speak to you? Like, I completely relate to this song.
Yeah, it's everything. I completely relate to the despair that, excuse me, is talked about. I relate to the suicidal thoughts. The music is beautiful. There's a number of people that have taken a number of Metallica songs and like played them on a piano or with some orchestra music, and especially Metallica's early stuff transfers so well. It's like a piece of classical music, and to the point, like, I played years ago when I first found this. I played it for my mom and sister. I'm like, I want to show you guys this song that I found. It's really cool. And the guy starts playing on the piano, and my mom and sister were like, oh, that's a really like nice piece of music. And I'm like, that's Metallica.
Wow.
Like, on a piano. So there is, like, again, with their early stuff, there's just a lot of things that transfer, like, the sound is so intricate that it can transfer over and sound like a piece of classical music, and you can't tell the difference. And that's, like, when you talk about impressive musicmanship, whatever that word would be.
Musicianship.
Yes, that's like the pinnacle. Like, if you can write a legit piece of classical music, people consider that like the most difficult or whatever. And so there's all these things with Metallica in general, but specifically Fade to Black, that...
So there's a dichotomy in this song that I'm not sure if you've ever thought of, but listening to you talk about it, so you relate with the lyrics,
Yep.
but the music maybe inspires your soul.
Sure. Yeah, that could be.
So it's a weird dichotomy of, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
like he's telling a story about somebody that's contemplating and eventually commits suicide because he can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But underneath all that, that's carrying that,
Yep.
is this music
Yep.
that is, I don't know. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. The music, like, you identify with it on like it's not really uplifting, because the music isn't uplifting, but it's like a peaceful, maybe resolute feeling.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to even say hopeful.
Right.
But in a way, the music, you know, just the way you're describing it, and the fact that this has given you, it's given you pause about yourself, that in and of itself seems like it's hopeful.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I don't want to say, because how depressing would it be that this is your favorite song of all time and you only love it because it talks about suicide?
Right.
There's more to it than just that, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Because I know you, and it's like, oh, this is the best song about suicide because of the lyrics, and you know, so but that's not who you are.
Right.
You love it because of the musicianship. You love it because it's telling a story, and that's who you are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So that was Fade to Black. The next song now is The Unnamed Feeling, and for anybody who's listening to this that knows Metallica, this is off their Saint Anger album, which is nobody likes. Everybody rips it.
I kind of like that record.
I happen to love it. I think people miss, like, this, like, they got rid of guitar solos, which I don't like because I love guitar solos. And yes, the drums sound weird, but it is the most raw, real record that James wrote lyrics for, because he was dealing with heavy drug and alcohol use at the time. So it's just like super raw, very honest about everything, and that to me is appealing. Be authentic, be real with the shit you're going through, and even if it is dark and aggressive and scary, at least it helps you get it out, and it helps people identify with it.
Can I tell you a quick story about Saint Anger?
Yeah.
So I like Metallica. Metallica was the first band I saw when I moved to Minnesota. I went there, but I went to go see them because they were opening up. Well, Guns N' Roses is why I went to go see them. and I didn't really know anything about Metallica. So, but I went to go see Guns N' Roses, and Metallica blew the Metrodome away.
Sure.
I mean, Guns N' Roses came out and they couldn't even hold a candle to how the musicianship, the way that they interacted with the crowd, Metallica did.
Sure.
I mean, I think Axl Rose was just like, fuck it. Like, this is, I can't compare to that. But my story was with St. Anger is I was in a rag stock in a mall. And I'm kind of following Metallica, but the St. Anger was playing over the stereo in Ragstock.
Yeah.
And I actually stayed and listened to like half the record while I was in the store because I'm like, who is this? And I was like, oh, this is. And she said, yeah, this is St. Anger, their new record. And I'm like, and so I just basically sat in Ragstock for like 30 minutes listening to the record. I'm like, this, and you're right. I think you described it perfectly. It's raw.
Yeah.
The sound of it is raw. I really liked it quite a bit. So I'm not familiar with this song though. Maybe it'll jog my memory. But.
Sure. Yeah. So I back when it first came out, I like the whole record a lot, but this song was the one that was the personal connection for me, and it's the unnamed feeling. It's some feeling inside of you that causes panic and stress and depression and anger and all that. And for a long time I dealt with that. There was just something that would sit in my soul that I couldn't figure out, and I finally have at least a good handle on it. It's not a great handle yet, but that unnamed feeling was anxiety. It took me a lot of years of therapy to work out that I have anxiety, and there's still some bit of an unnamed feeling there. I think it's still tied to anxiety because I haven't figured it all out yet, and who knows if I ever will figure it all out. But I actually used this song because like my parents had a really hard time with me, like understanding me. And so one night when I was like 22, 21, I sat them down and printed out the lyrics and had them listen to this song. And I'm like, if you ever want to know what's going on with me, this song is like all of the confusion that I have, all of the anger and all that. This song describes it as well as any other song I've ever heard. Better than.
Wow.
I mean, even better than Fade to Black, my favorite song of all time.
Right.
The Unnamed Feeling captures the struggle that I have. So in the first verse, one of the lines that really sticks out to me is, just let me plug you into my world. Can't you help me be uncrazy? And, it's kind of a juxtaposition with Fade to Black, because Fade to Black was talking about how you can't, like the character in the story doesn't think anybody else can help him. He's only focused inward. So now this song is like reaching out, like somebody please help me. So I think that's an interesting, because Fade to Black was probably written in like 82 or 83.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
Yep. And
so an evolution.
Yeah. And Saint Anger came out in 03, so it was probably written in 02. So that 20-year gap that James grew up and realized that I like, everybody still deals with focusing inward, but at least now he's like some sort of trying to get out and have somebody help him or support him or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So now the chorus is, and I'll play the chorus, is it comes alive, repeated 3 times, and I die a little more, it comes alive, repeated 3 times, each moment here I die a little more. And that's the that unnamed feeling is coming alive in him, and he's dying from having that feeling. So I'll play it here, and yes, it will be a very different sound than what was just played with Fade to Black.
I turn my eyes to look inside to see what's coming. It comes alive, it comes alive, it comes alive. I die a little more. It comes alive, it comes alive, it comes alive. Each moment here, I die a little more.
So yeah, that's the chorus of the song. And
God, can't so many people relate to that.
yeah, yeah,
It's
for
like
sure.
you're going along and you think you're doing good, and then something happens and it's back.
Yep.
It comes alive. It comes alive. It
Yep.
comes alive a little more. Like, and that's what we talk about a lot about how, oh, I got this anxiety, or I got this terrible thought, or I'm creating this really false narrative. And then it just sort of creates its own little life inside you, right?
Yep.
And it takes the light that is you
Yep.
and dims it a little bit.
Yep. Yeah. It's and I think that's one of the maybe the most underappreciated um, part of Saint Anger is James's writing. I think people were so turned off by. I mean, you can hear it sounds weird, like it was recorded in a garage. Everybody always says Lars is banging on a trash can for his drums, and fine if you don't like the sound, but at least be able to appreciate the writing, like read the lyrics and hear what he's saying. Another thing that kind of ties into that, and it's found in the third verse, and one of the lines is, I've found safety in this loneliness, but I can't stand it anymore. And that's, again, using the term juxtaposition. It's so weird that, and I completely identify it with it, that you find safety in the loneliness. Like if I can just hole up in my room and not do anything, that's what I want, and shut out the outside world.
It's familiar.
Yeah, but then
But it sucks.
right, and then there's that feeling of, but I can't stand it anymore, but I keep running back to it, but I can't stand it, but I keep going back to it. And that's really indicative of anything that you get attached to, whether it's drugs or food or drinking or what.
Just stagnation.
Right. It always, you go to what is familiar, but a lot of times what's familiar isn't really good for you and you can't stand it. But I guess the old adage, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. So like for me, when I go to prostitutes or overeating, it's better than trying to better myself, because what if I fail? Like, at least I've already failed with prostitutes and food, so what's one more failure? But if I try something and fail at it, then that's something that I look at and go, well, it's just one more thing I can't do. So
yeah, this one is really good.
Yeah.
This is a good choice.
yeah. So I'll play a little bit of that third verse that I was just talking about there.
Arms, I cannot sleep in this down-filled world. Found safety in this loneliness, but I cannot stand it anymore. Cross my...
Yeah, so that's,
Man.
yeah, and it's,
And I'm wondering if with this particular song, if they were trying to kind of, if it the dissonance was somewhat purposeful,
sure,
because this is a very dissonant song. Like, it's almost out of tune. Right.
But the whole album's that way. But I think the whole album is that way for a specific reason. I think they specifically like, the album is called Saint Anger. They
Like
wanted,
something's off.
yeah, they wanted you to feel some anger, rage, confusion, anxiety, stress over listening to it. So while people rip on it, I think it was a purposeful choice that enhances the message that they were trying to get across. And I don't think you could have necessarily done that as easily or as well if it sounded like, for lack of a better term, highly produced, really well produced. So, but yeah, so I think people just get so turned off, and it's just like, okay, fine. Like I said earlier, fine, don't listen, but read the lyrics. Like, identify with those, because this is some of James's most personal writing, maybe his most personal writing, aside from one or two other songs that he's got. But yeah, I think it doesn't get the credit it deserves.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't remember hearing this song in Ragstock, but I can see why you would pick this one.
Yeah. So yeah, now I'll play you a couple. I guess I'd call them verses. They're little short verses, so some music person probably knows a better term than a verse, but they're kind of back to back. So I'll play those. It's just like a 15 or 20-second clip here. But this is where like the anger starts to come through with dealing with something that you can't quite figure out.
Get the fuck out of here. I just wanna get the fuck away from me. I rage, I glaze, I hurt, I hate it all. Why me? I can't sleep with a head like this. I wanna cry, I wanna scream. I rage, I glaze, I hurt, I hate. I wanna hate it all away.
Is that James?
Yeah.
He was actually kind of singing there.
A little bit. He can sing a little. He ain't the greatest, but yeah, he can sing a bit.
But again, as an ex-music producer, I kind of feel like that was purposeful. When you listen to him sing that, it's like you could tell he feels like he's trying to convey, oh my God, I feel so fucking topsy-turvy. I'm so, right?
Yep. Yes.
But there's also melody. Like I'm
Yeah.
trying to find the melody here.
Yep.
And
Yep.
brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, so those lines were, get the fuck out of here. I just want to get the fuck away from me. I rage, I glaze, I hurt, I hate it all. Why me? So the next lines were, I cannot sleep with a head like this. I want to cry, I want to scream. I rage, I glaze, I hurt, I hate. I want to hate it all away. And I think that to me, because you and I both deal with anger issues, that's something like I've thought in the past, like if I could just get mad enough to motivate myself to lose weight or to stop seeing prostitutes or to, back when I was in school, if I could just get mad enough, then I'd get my homework done, and trying to use like rage and hatred of things to motivate myself.
Yes, I want to confirm what you just said. Yes, we both struggle with that, and so when I hear him sing that,
Yep.
It's almost like he took exactly how I feel. Like I had a meltdown this week.
Artificial.
I had a meltdown this week, and it kind of was exactly. It sounded inside my soul exactly what he was doing.
Okay.
My question was though, you know the documentary that they did?
Some Kind of Monster.
Was that documenting after this record?
It was. Well, it came out after, but it was about the filming of this record. Or it was the filming about recording this album.
Oh, that makes sense then, because they were going through some pretty heavy shit in that documentary.
Yes. Yep.
And so that makes sense that you would hear that in this music.
Yeah,
Okay.
so one of the songs off of Saint Anger is called Some Kind of Monster. That's, the song title is also the documentary film title.
Because they were fighting, and he was super depressed,
Yeah.
and they just, everything had come to a head. Like,
Yep.
they're depressed.
Yep.
And, and they're rock stars. They're
Right.
freaking rich. They have more money. They probably have more people that want to be, which isn't necessarily like the recipe for happiness, right?
But people think it is.
But people think it is. And we know some people that are like that, right? Success and validation and money. It's not.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, if anybody hasn't seen Some Kind of Monster, it's really good.
Yep.
Even if you're not necessarily a Metallica fan, you will be after you watch it.
Yep.
Because they're very human, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're just human in it.
Yeah.
Like, they're freaking fighting, and Lars
They're
and
being
James.
petty.
They're being so petty with each other. I mean, but think about it. It's almost like a family or a brotherhood. Like, they're brothers. They've been at it since they were teenagers.
Yeah.
And they're still a band. I mean, U2 has been at it since they were in high school.
Yep.
And they're still a band. I mean,
Right.
and so seeing all those dynamics, because James clearly struggles with depression and stuff. Lars?
I don't really know. The rest of the band, as far as I know, hasn't been super open. None of them have been to rehab, I don't think. They've all been divorced. When they recorded the Black album in 1990, it came out in 91. The band likes to joke that it cost like $5 million to produce and 3 marriages or something.
Mm-hmm.
So they've all had their struggles, but I think James is the one with the most struggles.
And and they allow him this, platform to express himself.
Yep.
And that's, to me, that sounds like brotherhood right there.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, so we'll move on now to my final song. We'll go a little bit more uplifting with it. It's a guy named Trip Lee. He's a Christian rapper. And most Christian rap that I've found I thought was too cheesy or whatever, but this guy came off of an album, a label called Reach Records that was founded by another Christian rapper that I like named Lecrae. And these guys are like Lecrae, Trip Lee, and I'm blanking on a couple of the other names that have been on Andy Mineo is one. But anyways, these guys are like legit good rappers and like very high quality production and all that. So this song titled War talks about spiritual warfare and how God and Satan are at war and how we live in a battlefield, and things aren't necessarily they don't seem certain in the moment, but there's a bunch of stuff that that's going on behind the scenes that will lead to victory, hopefully. So here's the beginning of this story.
Life and death go to battle, ain't no telling what'll happen. But life and death go to battle, ain't no telling what'll happen. It's war tonight, it's death and life. This the kind of war you ain't never seen ever. Soldiers getting racked, homie, heads get severed. Death tolls crazy like nothing on record. Civilians ain't safe, man, the troops might get ya.
So this is one part that I singled out. So the few lines are, civilians ain't safe, man, the troops might get you, the troops being Satan's troops. Can't run or hide, because them guys gonna get you. They never get tired, never let up. They're fired up, wired up to put you on a stretcher, but is the good side tough enough? You betcha. And I like that he's focusing on how bad the demonic forces can be, but also know that good can win in the end. So I'll play those few lines right there for you.
Cause them guys don't catch ya. They never get tired, never let up. They bad up, ride up, they put you on the stretcher. But is the good side tough enough? You betcha. Yeah, you got bad guys, they are proud.
So yeah, I like at the very end when he adds, but is the good side tough enough? You betcha. I like that he adds that throughout the song of it's not all hopeless. There's going to be some things that can provide victory for you. There's another little 2 lines in one of the verses that I like, because I think it gets. I think a lot of times in Christianity we quote unquote know the story so well that we forget just how radical it actually is. And the 2 lines are, the sun came down to the wasteland we in, our death-filled mess, he'll win, no leaving. And I think it's so, like, from a philosophical point of view, to think that God became man to come into our mess. Like that, like what a radical idea for God or any God to do, to like enter in like to the mess of creation that he's created that's fallen, and instead of just judging and always being mad, he actually enters into it to identify better with,
experience it.
Yeah, and I think that gets overlooked so much because it's so familiar. I don't think people really sit with that Jesus walked the earth and he had his temptations, and so he knows what it's like. So I think that's,
and he overcame it.
Right. So yeah, I think that's just a really cool thing. So the next verse I have, or the next few lines, have you ever seen the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or read the books? So there's a scene in the movie where Aslan is killed by the Winter Witch or the White Witch, and all of her evil forces celebrate because they think they've won. but they don't understand that by killing Aslan, they've actually committed they've committed to their own defeat because of the deeper magic that exists. And so the lines here are, they capture the king, so they being the demonic forces, the king obviously being Jesus. They capture the king. Next thing, the shots rang out. General is down. The troops are like, we out. So it's like the disciples dispersing after Jesus is dead. The life giver dies and the other side celebrates, but they know the hellish death the devil faces. So it's like the whole, like, all the demonic forces are so happy that they've won, that they've killed Jesus, but they have no idea that by doing that, the redemption that is set in place for the rest of us. And
that's radical.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, and then I like that he calls out the disciples, like the general is down, the troops are like, we out. They're like, they, you know, when Jesus was alive, they were all, yay, Jesus, and we're going to proclaim victory. But then the second he dies, they're just like, this didn't go like we thought, we got to go. And then they, you know, they hid in that upper room, and they had to have the women come tell them, and
then Jesus had to actually show up.
Yep, and Thomas had to stick his finger in. Yeah. So I think that's a really cool way of portraying it in war. Like,
you know, and really, how else could it have played out?
Right.
That was the big sort of, oh my gosh moment for me when I kind of really became a follower of Christ. Is how else could it have played out?
Yeah.
I mean, that grace by which this man God comes to earth and allows himself to be flogged and crucified and tortured, essentially just basically beaten to death.
Yep.
That for me is radical. That for me is the reality of what Christianity is that he did that for us.
Yeah.
He did that when he didn't have to, but he knew, you know, and in the Garden of Gethsemane, he's just, hey, please take this cup from me. You know, I don't want to do this.
Right.
So we know that Jesus felt fear
to
the point where he bled, he sweat blood.
Yep.
I mean, that to me, that is radical.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that gets overlooked too a lot, where it's just like you need to have faith, and you need to do whatever God says, and you can't have any doubts about it, and you can't question it. It's like, no, we have plenty of examples in the Bible where people question stuff. Jesus himself didn't want to go through with it. The part that it teaches us is faithfulness, but it's okay to question things. It's okay to go, I don't want to do this. And sometimes we have examples in the Bible that God will change his plans based on us petitioning him for something. So you just gotta, for everybody in the moment, you just gotta figure out, if this is something I don't want to do, talk with God about it. He might take it from you, he might not, but it's okay to question things. It's okay to be unsure. It's okay to be scared. So
amen, man.
Yeah. So the last verse, and I didn't timestamp this one, so this is going to be where it gets a little choppy because I got to find it here while we're talking. But the last verse of it is now that Jesus has risen, now he's coming back to the battlefield, and it gets the music crescendos, and it gets a little more amped up and all that, and it gives me goosebumps when I listen to it, and all the lyrics, and I won't read all the lyrics because it's a whole verse, so hopefully people can hear as they're listening, and if you can't, you can look it up online and find out.
It really might seem like the war's still going, people still dying, sin is still potent, the devil's still tempting, and evil ain't slowing, just wait until that trumpet gets blowing. The general is coming with keys in his hands, the death and haters, they'll freeze where they stand, and see they've been defeated, please understand, if they don't want to see him, bro, the king is the man, he's a man of war, a beast on the battlefield, obliterating all the evil forces that'll kill. Where's the same death? Oh, you don't got it, bro. Where's the victory? Oh, you been swallowed whole. But when he's back, ain't no fighting Jehovah. He'll toss you in a lake of burning fire and sulfur. He's a tank and a soldier. He'll wipe away our tears and our fears, and all the pain and death will be over.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some musicianship there.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so the few lines I will read because I think they're just so awesome is he says, "Where's your sting, death? Oh, you ain't got it, bro. Where's your victory? Oh, you've been swallowed whole."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that. That is so powerful and that is so cool. I love that part. So.
Yeah, that gave me a little goosebumps too, because I mean, and what a great place to end this episode. That God is a feeling and God is a thought. God is in the fear. God is in the doubt. God is in us. God's in the depression. I mean, but ultimately, God wins.
Yep.
Right? I mean, the Bible tells us that.
Yep.
And that gives me hope.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to do more of these.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it went smoother.
Really
than I
smooth.
thought. So I'm excited to next time we get a chance to do this to hear your songs and we get some other people, Nathan and all that. And I think this is a good way to, you and I are really willing to be open, and Nathan was. But I think this is a good way if people aren't comfortable expressing themselves with their own words. I think this is a really cool way to allow people to express themselves without being so open.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was a good idea you had.
Yeah.
So I really liked it.
Yeah. Well, I will say that we are so glad that you tuned in, and we hope and pray that you move forward into your day in God's light and in the music of God's love. And next week, I guess what we'll do is we'll do DJ's 3. That's going to be hard.
Yeah.
I mean, even just during our talk, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll switch out this one with this one. Because, you know me, I'm pretty, musical. So,
Yeah.
But you did a really good job. And so
Well,
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for opening up today.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for hosting, as always.
All right, brother.
Appreciate it. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.